Think you can tell a professional cook from a talented amateur with a day job? Every week, 2 professionals and 2 amateurs keep us and you guessing who's who till the last bite. Fooled again.
New season, Cooks vs. Cons. Premieres July 10th at 10 on Food Network.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi.
Since it's Friday, I thought we'd have a drink.
It's Wednesday.
Well, Martha, this is a Martha Martini, and you actually introduced me to this at your house in Maine. And I bought this in honor of you, and that sits at my restaurant at the National in Connecticut just for her when she comes in. So this is a Martha Martini made with a little dirty, because you like it a little dirty, correct?
No. I don't like olive juice.
This is olive juice.
Okay.
And Imperia vodka.
Imperia vodka, the best vodka. Has anybody ever heard of Imperia vodka? It's processed on, do you know it's on crystal?
Crystal?
It is, yes, it is filtered through rock crystal in St. Petersburg. I went there. Wow. Oh, good. This is just the right thing to ruin the interview. You're trying to make me soften my questions, aren't you?
It's not possible for you, actually.
No.
Cheers.
And cheers to you. And you have a lot to cheer about.
Yes, we do. We're very lucky. We're both very lucky.
Well, Geoffrey's very lucky because Geoffrey is one of the busiest restaurateurs in America. He is now bicoastal.
Yes, I'm bicoastal.
Truly bicoastal.
We just opened in the Montage Hotel in Beverly Hills about 6 weeks ago, a restaurant called Georgie. We're very excited.
Tell where the name comes from.
It's my son that was born 2 years ago. When we were announcing the project, we just, you have a paper name like the project, and we just said, let's call it the Georgie. And it stuck, so it sounds very Hollywood, I think.
And I haven't been there yet. I tried. I was there the week before you
We weren't open. I know.
I know, and I tried. I knocked on the door. Nobody would let me in.
That's not true.
And it's very exciting for you and your family
Yes.
because your family's staying out there for the summer.
For at least a couple of weeks, we're there. My wife and I work together. She runs the company. So she's actually out there right now with my kids who are in aerial camp, which I'm going to find out what that is when I pick them up tomorrow.
He told me it was diving.
I thought it was diving, but
I said,
it's
what
not.
kind of diving? Deep sea
like,
diving, snorkeling?
I think it's like those trapeze things, I'm pretty sure, so.
Oh, that's great. But not the 2-year-old.
Not the what?
The 2-year-old.
No, not the 2-year-old.
He has 2 amazing daughters who are accomplished cooks.
Yes, and one of them was on your show, your
She
PBS,
was on my
I think last week,
baking
actually.
show, and people really loved her on
Really?
the show. Yes, we got a lot of good response.
Chip off the old block.
And we just became friends. We kind of bonded down in, on a vacation in St. Bart's.
Yes, it's very easy to bond in St. Bart's.
And it was, over all that rosé that we drank. But it was very fun to become friends with Geoffrey and his lovely family. And he really does have an extraordinarily lovely family. I don't know how you do it, Geoffrey, because you're so busy. And you still manage to keep them very, very interested in what you do and very involved in what you do. And they have their own interests, too, which kind of meld nicely with yours.
Well, I think that I do sort of what you do. They're with me when I go to work. They're with me when I go to the restaurant. They just tag along.
But they love tagging along.
They tag along, and they get an experience that it's really rare to get. So they're very lucky. I feel extremely lucky. But my job as a parent, I think, is to give them a better life than I had. And I just can't imagine the experiences they've had at 7 and 9. It's amazing.
We were filming my baking show that airs on PBS up in my kitchen in Bedford. And Geoffrey was in the neighborhood. He also has a wonderful new restaurant called The National in Greenwich, Connecticut. It has transformed the restaurant scene in our area. And we really needed that restaurant tremendously. It's a
I think that and John George's, those two restaurants.
You and Jean George and Michael White all have restaurants in the neighborhood of Bedford, Greenwich. That little enclave of expensive real estate homes, and we never had any place to eat. But now the National really did change, and it actually a good restaurant like that can actually improve real estate values in a neighborhood, because you now have a lovely place. You don't have to go to New York. You can go and have a Martha Martini and delicious food. Good local food. And you also have, we should talk about your restaurants because when did you start actually having restaurants, your own?
My own. Well, a restaurant is never really your own. There's a sort of fallacy out there about like
You have partners.
you have partners, and partners squabble once in a while, and some restaurants work, some restaurants kind of work, and others don't. I mean, I think there's not a restaurateur I know who hasn't closed a restaurant. So it's a very, very hard endeavor. It's harder now than it's ever been because the costs are just so difficult. And I call it a giant crapshoot because it really is. Even if you're really good, you really do it before. There are great restaurateurs who do this all the time, and they open up, it just doesn't work, and it goes down. So, but I was fortunate enough to start with a gentleman named Ian Schrager. I don't know if you know of him, but he was sort of the guy that introduced boutique hotels to New York in 1987 with the Royalton Hotel on 44th Street. And he and Philippe Stark, who was a crazy designer back then, designed this wild boutique hotel, which was an SRO, a single room occupancy hotel, which means a very downtrodden place. It was very bad. And he transformed it and made it into one of the most spectacular boutique experiences ever in 1987.
That was right across the street from my magazine office.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were right at 43rd between, in that building where the New Yorker was.
I never knew that.
Yes, and so we had a lot of lunches at the Royalton.
So we didn't know each other then.
I didn't know you, no, but we ate there a lot.
That was 1987, and Ian Schrager and Steve Rebell, which is his partners, they were the people that created Studio 54, where all the craziness happened, and that was sort of the time of the year. And this was the first boutique.
Did you go to Studio 54?
I never did. I was always working.
You never went?
No, I never went. Never.
I only went that night where they had the walls made out of ice.
The walls made up, but this was crazy. They had like live animals in there. It was wild. It was much wilder than anything goes on today. But there were no cell phones. It was much more fun.
And yeah, no pictures.
No pictures, no cell phones.
Instagrams, no
nothing. No,
Snapchat.
you could really disappear.
It was disgusting. It was so horrible. When I went to Studio 54 that one night. Oh my gosh! I'm a teenager in Nutley, New Jersey, and I was dragged in to go to Studio 54 to see these walls of ice, and everyone was lying around. I mean, in the stupors, and the music.
Yeah, it was a lot of
so
drugs, a lot
loud.
of quaaludes. It was really it was the typical 80s, and from that, I mean, this was he started there. He never knew how to do hotels. And I'll give you the story because it's interesting. He got arrested and went to jail for tax evasion. He stored cash in the ceilings, bags of cash. They caught him. He went to jail, he and Steve. And in jail, they launched an idea to open a boutique hotel. And they bought the hotel on 37th and Madison, the first one,
Well, that was
with Andre
nice one,
Putman,
too. Yes.
called I can't think of the name of it.
Susan knows. What was that hotel, Susan? On 37th and Madison.
Ian's first hotel. Andre Putman was the designer.
I can't remember.
The Morgans.
Morgans, that's right.
So Morgans was just about 6 months before the Royalton, but the Morgans was financed by a very good friend of his, Calvin Klein, who wrote him a check when he got out of the jail, and they decided to reinvent the hotel business, and they did. And they become incredibly, incredibly rich.
Yeah,
So we went from the Royalton, then we opened up the Paramount on 46th Street, and then we went in 1994 and opened up the Delano, Blue Doors at Delano Hotel.
What was the one up on like 57th Street? That one.
That's the Hudson. That was
Yeah, the
after the
Hudson.
Delano.
Right.
And then
the rooms
Morgan's
were,
and
the
then
rooms were the size of shoe
tiny,
boxes.
like this. So
barely crawl in.
I was very much, for the first 10 years of my career, in the hotel business with a boutique hotel owner named Ian Schrager. And my partner was Brian McNally, who's Keith McNally's partner, who owns Balthazar Pastis and all that. So I got into this business just through backdoor of hotels. So I'm still in hotel business basically right now, and I've opened more restaurants and hotels, I think, than any chef, because I get called to do it because I have a history of doing it. So, and I really love hotels and I love the restaurant business. But I love the restaurant business more when it's in a hotel. I think it's just much more interesting.
But your fanciest, most glamorous restaurant right now, I guess, is the Lamb's Club.
Yeah, Lamb's Club
At
was
the Chatwell Hotel.
Yes, the Lamb's Club is on 44th Street, and it's a really beautiful.
Right in the heart of the theater district. So you have theater, pre-theater, you have après theater.
Yes, and Stanford White, I don't know if you know who that is, who's an incredible designer, who did all the homes in the Hamptons, all those Stanford White homes, those big white, shingled homes with beautiful. And he designed a small place called Grand Central Station as well. And so he was a member of the Lambs Club, and he designed the Lambs Club in 1928. And he was, unfortunately, a philanderer who was dating a 16-year-old woman, and at a dinner, at a very fancy dinner, a gentleman walked up to the table and shot him in the head, and that was the husband of the wife who was 16. And that's how Stanford White's life was ended. So it was very salacious back then, You didn't, it was like live life or death. But the Lambs Club is a beautiful restaurant.
It's not only back then. I was in a very, very fancy restaurant up on Madison Avenue about 10 years ago, and the same thing happened. A gun was drawn in the restaurant.
Where was this?
I won't tell you because I don't want to hurt the chef. He's my friend. But it was in his restaurant, and a man came in angry. I mean, he was red in the face, and he whips out a gun, and his beautiful young wife was sitting with this guy, and he wanted to shoot them, and they somehow managed to stop it all.
Wow. And
arrest him.
Wow.
In the restaurant. So exciting.
God, I didn't know we had such an exciting life.
I don't like stuff like that.
I didn't know that. I should have known of that.
It's frightening.
You tell me later.
I will. I'll tell you. But you, which is your favorite restaurant? Is it always the last one?
It's always the last one.
Yeah, Georgie.
It really is. Georgie's great. We're also, I love the Lambs Club in Georgie, but I think that the National in Greenwich is a beautiful. I don't know if you know Greenwich. Greenwich is a beautiful little hamlet up in Connecticut. But I get very, very serious about restaurants. I spend a lot of time in the restaurants, and it's a passion for me. We pick out everything, the fabric, every single piece of everything, every scrap of paper, every knife is very much decided on. It takes a lot of time. It's really a passion play, and I tell people it's no different than opening a Broadway play. When I read that whole thing about Hamilton and Miranda and the owner and all that, I was like, wow, this is the same as opening a restaurant. You get a bunch of investors, you promise them the moon, and then you're late, and you're over budget, and then you just have to open the gates and wait for the review. It sounds like I'm opening a restaurant. It's the same thing. And it's, 3 shows a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's a lot of parallels, and that's what it is, but it's so exciting for me. And I don't know why I keep doing it, because it's just really not a great way to make a lot of money, but it's just so fulfilling. And I think part of what I like doing TV for and all the shows is because I get to show another side of me that I really have fun, but my real insides are behind a stove and running around a restaurant.
And I was lucky enough to have Geoffrey and his family as my house guest last year in my beautiful home up in Seal Harbor. And you invite somebody like Geoffrey, and they're just friends. And I told him the food would be good. I said we'd have nice stuff up there. We have fresh lobsters, and people drop fish off at the back door, and
it's all true.
All of that. And so before he gets there, a giant box, like a giant coffin, arrives. It's styrofoam, loaded with steaks that are like 6 inches thick, and every kind of pre-prepared sauce and spice. I mean, I have a fully equipped house up there. And this guy brings all this stuff. He was worried that he was going to starve to death, I think. Were you worried about that, or did you just want to show off on the kitchen?
I wanted to show off, and it's very hard to bring Martha Stewart a gift. I mean, what do you bring? I mean, it's almost impossible. So it's very, very hard to do that. So what I can bring was...
So we brought dinner for 12.
Yeah, I brought dinner for 12.
In a coffin.
In a coffin. But the steaks were great.
It was the best dinner ever. I mean,
so I bought beautiful Creekstone steaks, tomahawks, and we grilled them on this beautiful grill outside, and we cooked together that night. We had a fantastic time in that kitchen, which was one of, I think, 4 kitchens that I saw in the house, but it was so fantastic to just sit and cook and actually eat in the kitchen, which I really loved eating in the kitchen. I thought that was the best part of it all.
Right in front of the stoves, right.
You just
turn
around, you sit down, and you eat in the kitchen.
It's a lot of fun. And but you were the greatest house guest, and the kids were so enjoyable to have around with my grandchildren.
Even though we got stuck on the boat.
Oh yeah. Don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. That boat. So Yeah, you won't tell us your favorite restaurant, but well, Georgie's.
Well, right now.
Who's going to Georgie's? Who's eating there?
A lot of people. My first customer was, I'm name dropping, I'm sorry, but
No, that's the idea here.
No,
You're on
I mean-
AOL build, brag.
I'll brag. It was.
This is what we do on AOL, right?
6 weeks ago, I was in the. It's a giant restaurant. I don't know if you know the Montage. It's a huge bar on the left and a
How many
huge restaurant.
seats in Georgie?
Oh, it's 200 something seats.
Oh, wow.
So we have a large bar. We do a martini cart.
Wait,
Beautiful martini
I love
carts.
the description.
Yeah.
This description is just.
So it was 5 o'clock. It was the first day, and we don't do opening parties. We just open, We just no one knows. And a few people know that just came, maybe mostly staff and some of the hotel executives and everything. So it was 5 o'clock. I'm running around trying to get the lighting because I'm a lighting freak, and the lighting was completely sucked. It was wrong because they put the LED lights in, which are all, efficient, but they're ugly. And once you turn them down to you can't turn them down low, and then they go off.
Right.
Because they're low voltage. So we had to rip them all off. I sent some to the hardware store, got all.
That's what was there, the LEDs. They're the worst.
No, the lighting was, they spent millions of dollars on lighting, but they put LED lighting. So I ripped it all out. I'm up on a ladder putting in incandescent bulbs. And finally it was perfect. And at 5 o'clock, I'm sweating, I'm in a suit. At 5 o'clock, the general manager said, he calls me Zach. He goes, Zach, listen, we have someone special. We open yet? It's 5 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, we're open. Who is it? And he turns around, and it's Robert De Niro. And he's alone, and he goes, hey. Hey, Jeff, hey, how are you? Nice. I didn't know you were here.
Oh, you're a good impersonator. Oh, another talent. Ay.
So I said, oh, sit down, please. And we gave him a table. And
Had he also tried to open the restaurant there?
No.
Oh.
No. But he has Ago in L.A., on Robertson. But evidently, he stays the Montage all the time, unbeknownst to me, under the name, I can't say
He
it.
doesn't have a house in L.A.?
He does. He stays at the Montage. He has a fake name, and he sat down, and I know he loves martinis. That's his thing. And I read one day, in my head it popped out, he has a vodka martini. He likes it shaken so he can skate across the top of it. And I said to him, Mr. De Niro, please sit down. I understand you like your martinis shaken so you can skate across the top of it. And he went, yeah, that's good. So the guy came around, Jay, came right around on cue, saw him, parked right there, and he sat for 3 hours alone on a flip phone and had, I think, 3 martinis and came back the next night with the same table with a bunch of people. So that was my first guest. I was very honored. My second guest was Cindy Crawford and her husband, Randy, and their daughter, who's so beautiful. And they were the loveliest people. And you know what Cindy said in front of Todd? Because Todd was the general manager. I was been bitching the entire time about the lighting, how awful it was. She walked in. Todd again escorted her and sat down. Hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. Oh, it's great. Cindy Crawford sat down and she looked up and she said, finally, someone got the lights right.
Ooh.
I was like, thank you. And it was right in front of the GM, and he heard it and was like, okay, I get it. So that was my first guest. So we've had Charlize Theron tonight.
I'm reading this whole
Yeah, we have a lot of beautiful
description
people.
Georgie and
Yeah.
the Garden Bar, which is part of the restaurant.
Yes.
Do you have to walk through the Garden Bar to get to the restaurant?
No, it's on either side. Does anybody know the Montage at all? It looks like a Venetian palace in Beverly Hills. It's just really beautiful, and it sort of wraps around. On the other side, I'm very lucky. My neighbor is Thomas Keller in Bouchon, so it's really nice having someone like that there all the time. So he stops by once in a while.
There. But you say here that the cocktail historian, Brian Van Flandem, lent his expertise to create a whimsical, inventive beverage program.
Yes, Brian is.
Very
You know Brian?
fancy.
Yeah, Brian does all my cocktails. We have someone.
A beverage historian.
Yes, he's a historian about booze. I think booze and the story about liquor is almost more interesting than wine because whiskey, rye, bourbon, sour mash, peat, vodka, gin, all are very, very interesting and sordid stories about how it happens. And all that stuff. There's just so much stuff. Much more varied than wine. Wine is a whole nother genre, but it's more focused. But liquor and alcohol has such a historic and familial, it's all passed with family. It's just fascinating. And this guy knows every single alcohol, every
Really?
single story, every single glass shape, every single, when it was first served. It's remarkable. So he's on we work with him as a consultant, and he does all the cocktails. So when he went to Beverly Hills, he did some, he delved into the history of Beverly Hills and the Beverly Hills Hotel and all that stuff and all the stuff around him. So it's really amazing. You have really great cocktails, and the staff are like mesmerized because it's like a PhD program in liquor. So it's a wonderful person to have on your team because I learned so much. It's fascinating to sit and hear him talk about this. So for me, it's amazing.
So the Lambs Club, which is this wonderful restaurant in the Theater District on 44th Street, is going to have jazz on Sundays.
Yes, not only
All summer?
Yes, not only is it going to have jazz. It's a Broadway Jazz Fest, meaning Neverland, Waitress, Chicago, all the cast members of all these shows are coming on Sunday to actually perform numbers during brunch.
Wow, what
it's
time?
really great. They come in the morning, it's 11 to 2.
Before the matinee?
Yeah, and what's great about it is they love the Lambs Club. It's on 44th Street in Broadway, so they come after at night to have cocktails. And we said, would you mind coming and just sing some songs? And they said yes. So it's fantastic. So it's really very special to have all these people that really just love. It's like you remember in the olden days what happened in the 50s and 40s. Along 52nd Street in the Village, jazz musicians would play a set, and they go from club to club, just drop in on their friends.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's sort of what we're doing here. It's so nice to have these people. A matinee, they do like 9 shows a week or 8 shows a week, and they come and sing again with us. It's incredible. So it's really worth stopping by because we have some great shows.
And then you have, like Woody Allen did that at the Carlisle all the time.
Woody Allen's great. Is he still doing that?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I haven't seen it in a while.
He has a movie tonight, a new
He
movie.
does?
Yeah.
Oh, the Cafe Society?
Yes.
I hear it's beautiful.
Yeah, so he's that's the opening tonight.
Are you going?
Yeah.
Lucky you.
You can come. You can come.
I can?
Yeah, sure. But
Let's wrap it up here. No.
it's always fun to do.
Is it where it's not the Zig feeling where it's closed?
We haven't
right?
even gotten to his real love, and where a chef works so hard in the kitchen behind the scenes. Geoffrey is also now in front of the camera, acting on television, acting and being yourself on television. You have how many shows?
Right now we have 4 that are
4
currently
shows.
in production.
Yeah. So tell us about them.
We have Chopped, which we just did our. Yeah, thank you. That was a show we did. We started in 2008, and the original cast was myself, Alex Bonicelli, and Scott Conant, and we just finished our 440th episode.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I did Chop Junior with him. I guess it was you that asked me to be on, and I hated chopping children. I hated it.
Yeah. The young children are okay. It's when they get 12 or 13, they get the feelings hidden, and they get like
they're ruined for life when they get chopped. They
wilted. But we have Chopped. We have Chopped Junior. I film a show called The Kitchen, which is on weekly at Saturday. Yeah, thank you. And now Cooks versus Cons, which just is season 2, and we just had our first premiere on Sunday, which had ratings off the chart, and we were second in all of cable. And the only show that beat us was Naked and Afraid.
But you should try that one too.
Well, I thought that we could show we should do the whole show nude and fog out the food.
You can try that.
We can try that. So those are the shows. So I'm very busy. I'm blessed with all that business, and it's something I love because opening restaurants is great, and like I told you, it's very gratifying. And it's what I do, and it's what I've learned how to do. But you have a busy restaurant, like the Lambs Club, for instance. We do 500 to 600 covers a day, maybe sometimes 7. So that's great business. And you touch 700 people. With one episode of Cooks versus Cons, you have 1.5 million people watching. It's just, there's no comparison. So you can gather all this information and get it back to you from 1.5 million eyeballs. And those people come and visit your restaurant. So it's just an amazing outreach. And for me, it's like I love teaching. I love talking about food. I love the gestalt of what food is and what hospitality is. It's just so fascinating to me every day.
Television video is an extraordinary medium for reaching.
It's amazing. In the last 25 years, what's happened is extraordinary.
It is extraordinary. So do we have any questions from the audience?
Hi, guys. Thank you for being
Hello.
here. So this is for Geoffrey. Earlier you mentioned that your kids are, into cooking. So I was just wondering, what are some of their favorite dishes to cook?
That's a great question. My daughter, I have two daughters, Anna 7 and Madeline 9. Madeline 9 is she's my wife. You
Your
always
second
find that.
wife.
Huh? Second wife. Third wife. She is very, very meat-centric. So she loves to bake, and she was bake with Martha a lot of times. So she'll come home, whip up cake. I get up at 5:36 in the morning. She'll be in the kitchen making muffins. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I hear the noise. She said, Dad, I'm just getting muffins ready before school. So she'll cook a batch of muffins completely get the step stool out, get everything amazing. But she will eat, her favorite thing is steak tartare. And she likes very, very old-fashioned dishes like Dover sole, steak tartare. And that's very much my style also. And my other daughter, Anna, could care less about any of that stuff. She wants pasta with butter and just French fries. That's the way it is, which is nothing wrong with that, by the way. But they do love food. They can't help it. I mean, they've been around it since they were kids, so it just wore off on them.
What about Georgie?
Georgie eats anything and everything. He's a very good eater. So we'll see. They change. It just at 4, 5, 6, 7, they just change. So
And sugar isn't kept from them. They can have all the sugar they want.
all the sugar they want, but they don't want a lot of it.
Yeah, and
so.
they're healthy and
Yeah.
gorgeous and
Yeah.
active and
I believe in if
smart.
they want to eat it, we will make it. If you want ice cream, you can have ice cream. We don't have to go. We don't eat. They don't have no desire for fast food. They've never eaten Burger King, McDonald's, nothing. Never. They've never had anything like that because what we have is this better. So if they want tacos, we'll go to a great taco place. If they want burgers, we'll go to a great burger place, or we'll make them. If they want sushi, we'll go.
But some nights they go out to 3 restaurants.
Yes.
I say, what are you doing tonight? And he said, well, we go to first,
Yes.
and then second we'll be at
We like to go
the
a movable
Polo
feast.
Bar, and
Yes.
then we're going to be at someplace else.
We like to try a lot of restaurants in the same night because it's impossible to kill all the nights of the week. So we'll have an appetizer at 5 o'clock at another restaurant, one restaurant. At 6:30 we'll be at another restaurant, and we'll have another appetizer. Then at 7:30 we'll go have dinner at another restaurant, and then we'll go find a place and have dessert at 8:30.
And this is with the whole entourage.
Yeah. And so what that does is you get all your calories in one day. Really, I mean, imagine you don't have enough time in the day. So we do it with the children because we are massively nutty about finding out what's going on. So we want to know what's happening in the food world because you have to keep up with it. It's very hard. You can't keep up with the food world on the internet. It's just not possible. You have to actually go and sit down and participate and put your device down and eat. So that's hard. It's the same investment as it was 30 years ago. So we just found a way to do that. When we travel to Europe, London and Paris, we do the same thing. In Paris, we pick on a run to spend a day because it's too big to do the whole city. So we'll stay in the 6. We'll go 12, 1, 2, 3, home. And we'll make sure we're staying close by.
Question?
Hey, you two. I'm loving the classy affair that's going on up on the stage. So this question is actually for you, Martha. I know you recently launched Martha and Marley and Spoon. Congratulations on that. How do you feel that the food kit delivery market has changed the food industry, and how does your product compare to other competitors that are out there?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a good question. Well, food kits are simply entire meals sent to you in ingredients. You receive the ingredients, which are pre-measured, with a recipe card that tells you how to put the meal together, how to cook it, and then you eat something very delicious with absolutely zero waste. So what we're really targeting with Martha and Marley Spoon and the other food kit businesses are targeting not restaurants, because we're all going to continue to go out to delicious restaurants, but we're targeting the grocery stores who put all that food out on the shelves. They have no idea if people are going to buy lettuce tomorrow. They have every kind of lettuce imaginable on the shelf. 60% of that lettuce is thrown away because people aren't buying it. So what's nice about the food kit business is that last week we received the orders for this week. So we know what we have to have on hand to pack the boxes for next week. So we have no waste as a company at all. And you can't, if your order isn't in by a certain time, you don't get to order for next week. That will probably ease up after we become more and more popular. But right now, it's a fraction of the food market. There's about, maybe 10 food kit purveyors in the United States right now. Everything's ordered online, and it's very competitive. But if you try all of them, and I did, I've tried every single one, and I loved the Marley spoon the best. And it happened that my food editor of 13 years went to work for Marley, and so it was sort of predetermined that we would join together afterward. And that's what we've done. But I think it's a very innovative and different way to cook at home, and it's great for young people who don't have any ability in the kitchen. They haven't been trained. This really teaches them ingredients, it teaches them techniques, and it teaches them no waste right away. So and the food is really good. So that's why. Thank you. One more question. Uh-oh, we're out of time already. Hi.
Hi guys. Thank you so much for being here. So my question is actually for Geoffrey. First off, I just want to say I really love your show, Cooks versus Cons on Food Network. So I was wondering if you can immediately tell whether or not someone's a cook or a con.
You would think I would know after all these years of employing phonies sometimes. You know, I'll tell you, here's the problem is that the Food Network is so good, and people watch it so much, that the fakers have gotten so good, it's really hard to tell. So, first blush, I always say, that's a chef. I can tell that's a chef, the way he grabbed the oven, he holds it. You can tell by the way someone grabs a knife, because if you hold your knife with the handle, the black handle, that's a con. A real chef grabs a bit of the hosel and the knife. So that's instinct. It's hard to fake that. So when you go for the knife and you go like this, it's pretty good. And if you season all the time and taste all the time, that's a second tell, like in poker. I still try to use those two tells to tell right away, but it's really hard because the cons are so good because there's so much video content out. There's probably 500, YouTube hits of how to make carbonara. And so if you just watch a couple, you can fake it, for heaven's sakes. And, sometimes you fake it and it works. So it's a great question, but it's really hard. And I probably have guessed wrong about probably 40 or 50% of the time. And we change our mind throughout the whole show. So it's a credit to the casting that they get these people like, we had a garbage man one day who was like such an amazing cook. It's impossible. And he was
Did you hire him?
I should have, but he's saying I can't pay him when he makes $80,000 a year with a full pension, with the sanitation department. But he was this big guy, and he was throwing garbage, and they showed him at the end what he did. He was a garbage man for like 30 years, and he was an unbelievable cook. So, I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, thank you all very much for watching. And Geoffrey, you're always fun to talk to. I could just sit here all day and just shoot the breeze. But we learned a lot. And good luck with all your projects, all the restaurants, and come up to Maine and take a rest. Do you need a rest?
I do, actually.
You do? Okay, come on up.
All right. Thank you, Martha. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.